I think I didn't do anything wrong, just tried to shake things up in my marriage. So when the envelope came with his lawyer's return address, I thought it was another one of his dramatic gestures. Only later did I realize my little joke had turned into official divorce papers. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible stories. The morning it all started, I was standing in our kitchen watching Marcus pour his coffee with the same mechanical precision he'd used for the past 3 years. No good morning, no kiss, just that distant look he'd perfected whenever I tried to connect with him. At 32, I felt invisible in my own marriage. "Marcus, we need to talk," I said, blocking his path to the door. He glanced at his watch. "I'm late for a client meeting, Lydia. Can it wait?" Everything could wait with Marcus. Our conversations, our intimacy, our marriage, it all took a back seat to his graphic design projects. I watched him grab his laptop bag and something inside me snapped. "Fine, go to work, again." The words came out sharper than intended. He paused at the doorway. "What's that supposed to mean?" "Nothing, Marcus. Absolutely nothing. Just like everything else in this house." That evening, I called my mother Sandra while folding laundry. "Mom, I don't know what to do about Marcus anymore. He's like a ghost living in our house." "Honey, marriage has rough patches. Your father went through a phase where work consumed him too. Maybe Marcus is just stressed." But I wasn't interested in patience. I wanted to feel alive again, wanted to matter to someone. That's when I thought of Joel. Joel Ramsey had been Marcus's best friend since college. At 34, he still had that easy charm that made people gravitate toward him. Unlike my husband, Joel noticed when I got my hair done, complimented my cooking, and actually laughed at my jokes. The idea formed slowly. What if I could make Marcus jealous? Show him what he was taking for granted. It would be harmless, just enough to shake him out of his complacency. I invited Joel over for dinner the following Friday, claiming Marcus needed cheering up after a difficult week. As I prepared the meal, I chose my outfit carefully, nothing too obvious, just a dress that flattered my figure. "This smells incredible, Lydia," Joel said, arriving with a bottle of wine. "Marcus is lucky to have you." During dinner, I made sure to laugh a little too loudly at Joel's stories, lean in when he spoke, and brush his hand when passing dishes. Marcus barely looked up from his plate, scrolling through work emails on his phone. "Marcus, Joel was telling us about his new gym expansion. Isn't that interesting?" I pressed. Marcus mumbled, not lifting his eyes. Joel shifted uncomfortably. "Maybe I should head out early. You two probably want some time together." "Don't be silly," I said, refilling his wine glass. "Marcus is always working anyway. At least someone appreciates good company." That's when it happened. Joel caught my eye and held it just a moment too long. A spark of understanding passed between us, and I felt a thrill I hadn't experienced in years. Marcus chose that exact moment to look up, his gaze moving between Joel and me with sudden alertness. The evening ended awkwardly, with Marcus retreating to his office and Joel making hasty excuses to leave. As I cleaned up, my phone buzzed with a text from Joel. "Thanks for dinner. You looked beautiful tonight." I should have deleted it immediately. Instead, I saved his number under a different name and replied, "You're sweet." Marcus barely noticed. The next morning, Marcus was quieter than usual. He'd found my phone charging on the counter, and I wondered if he'd seen the message. Good, I thought. Maybe now he'll pay attention. But Marcus didn't confront me. He didn't demand explanations or fight for our marriage. He just grew more distant, which only fueled my frustration and pushed me further toward the dangerous game I'd started. By Monday, I was back at my job as an office administrator, surrounded by the familiar chaos of ringing phones and workplace gossip. My colleague Janet noticed my improved mood immediately. "You're glowing today, Lydia. What's your secret?" Just feeling appreciated for once, I said, unable to hide my smile. The truth was, Joel had been texting me regularly since Friday night. Nothing inappropriate, just friendly messages that made me feel seen. When he suggested meeting for coffee to talk about Marcus, I convinced myself it was innocent. We met at Cafe Luna, a cozy spot downtown where I felt sophisticated and desired. Joel looked genuinely concerned as he stirred his cappuccino. "I'm worried about you and Marcus. Things seemed tense on Friday." "He's been distant for months," I confided. "I feel like I'm married to a stranger. Sometimes I wonder if he'd even notice if I disappeared." Joel leaned forward. "Any man who doesn't appreciate you is a fool, Lydia. You're intelligent, beautiful, funny, everything Marcus should be grateful for." The validation was intoxicating. When Joel suggested we grab lunch the following week, I agreed without hesitation. "Just as friends," he added quickly, "to help you figure things out." "Of course," I replied, though we both knew it wasn't entirely true. That afternoon, my sister Rachel called while I was still buzzing from the coffee date. "How are things with Marcus?" she asked. "The same, actually worse. I think I need to do something dramatic to wake him up. Lydia, be careful. Whatever you're thinking, remember you have Eva and Max to consider." "I'm not doing anything wrong, Rachel. Just reminding my husband that other people find me attractive." "That sounds dangerous. Maybe you should try marriage counseling instead." But I'd already moved past counseling. I wanted immediate results. Wanted Marcus to feel the panic of potentially losing me. Over the next 2 weeks, Joel and I met 3 more times. Our conversations grew more intimate, more flirtatious. He told me about his failing marriage to Mina, how they'd grown apart since opening the gym. I shared my loneliness, my frustration with Marcus's emotional unavailability. "You deserve so much better," Joel whispered during our 4th meeting, his hand covering mine across the table. I didn't pull away. Instead, I felt alive for the first time in years. Unfortunately, Janet from work happened to walk by our table just as Joel was stroking my thumb. Her eyes widened, and I knew the office gossip mill would be churning by morning. "Lydia, honey, isn't that Marcus's friend?" she asked when I returned to work. We were just talking about marriage problems. Joel's been a good friend. But Janet's expression suggested she wasn't buying my explanation. That evening, Marcus seemed different, more alert, more suspicious. During dinner, he asked pointed questions about my day, my whereabouts, my mood. I deflected with jokes and complaints about work, but I could feel his scrutiny. "Mom called today," he said casually while helping Eva with her homework. "She mentioned running into Janet downtown. Janet seemed to think you were having lunch with Joel quite frequently." My heart raced, but I forced a laugh. "Your mother needs to mind her own business, and Janet gossips about everyone. Joel and I are friends, Marcus. Maybe if you showed half as much interest in our marriage, I wouldn't need friends to talk to." Marcus's jaw tightened, but he didn't respond. That night, he slept in the guest room for the first time in our marriage. Instead of feeling guilty, I felt vindicated. Finally, I had his attention. The next morning, Joel texted, "Can we meet today? I have something important to tell you." I agreed, telling myself this was exactly what I wanted. Marcus jealous, Joel interested, and me in control of my own destiny. But as I drove to meet Joel, I noticed a strange car following me. When I mentioned it to Joel, he looked uncomfortable. "Lydia, maybe we should cool things down. Marcus called me last night. He's suspicious, and I don't want to lose my best friend over a misunderstanding." "A misunderstanding?" I felt my carefully constructed plan slipping away. "Is that what this is to you?" Joel reached for my hand. "No, you mean more to me than that. But we need to be smart about this." That afternoon, I returned home to find Marcus waiting in the kitchen with a grim expression and my phone in his hand. "We need to talk, Lydia. Now." The confrontation I'd been orchestrating finally arrived, but not on my terms. Marcus stood in our kitchen holding my phone like evidence in a trial, his face a mask of controlled fury I'd never seen before. "Unlock it," he said quietly. "Excuse me?" "Your phone, Lydia. Unlock it, now." My heart hammered as I realized he must have tried to use it while I was out. "Marcus, you're being ridiculous. I'm not unlocking anything. What happened to trust in this marriage?" "Trust?" His laugh was bitter. "You want to talk about trust? Janet called me today. Apparently half the town has seen you and Joel together. My own mother heard about it at the grocery store." The walls were closing in, but I refused to back down. "So what if Joel and I have coffee? He's your friend too. We talk about you, actually. About how to help our marriage." "By holding hands in public?" "We weren't—" I stopped myself. Denying what he might have evidence of would only make things worse. "Marcus, you've been ignoring me for months. Joel listens to me. He makes me feel human again." "So this is my fault?" "I didn't say that, but if you'd been present in our marriage, maybe I wouldn't need emotional support from other people." Marcus set my phone on the counter and walked toward the door. "I'm taking the kids to my mother's for the weekend. When I get back, we're going to have a very different conversation." "You can't just take Ava and Max without discussing it with me. Watch me." That Friday evening, I found myself alone in our house for the first time in years. Instead of the freedom I'd expected, I felt hollow. I called Joel, needing reassurance that this was all worth it. "He took the kids to his mother's," I said when Joel answered. "Shit, Lydia. This is getting serious. Maybe we should—" "Should what? Pretend nothing happened? I'm tired of pretending, Joel. I'm tired of being invisible." "What do you want from me?" The question hung in the air. What did I want? To feel desired, to matter, to prove that I was worth fighting for. "I want to stop sneaking around like we're doing something wrong." "But we are doing something wrong. We're both married." "Your marriage is over, and mine." I paused, realizing I was about to say something that couldn't be taken back. "Mine has been dead for years." The following Monday, at school pickup, I noticed the other mothers whispering and glancing in my direction. Helen Vane, Marcus's mother, was among them, her expression cold and disappointed. "Lydia," she approached me as I walked Eva to the car. "We need to talk." "Hello, Helen. How was your weekend with the kids?" "Don't pretend everything is normal. Ava asked me why Daddy was sad, and Max keeps asking when you're coming to get them. What exactly are you doing to this family?" "I'm trying to save my marriage by showing Marcus what he has to lose." Helen's eyes flashed with anger. "By having an affair with his best friend? That's your solution?" "I'm not having an affair. Joel and I are friends. Close friends." "Lydia, I've been married for 40 years. I know what an emotional affair looks like, and I know where it leads. You're destroying everything Marcus has worked for, everything you've built together." Other parents were definitely staring now. I felt exposed, judged, but I couldn't back down. "Maybe if your son had been a better husband, we wouldn't be having this conversation." Helen stepped closer, her voice low but fierce. "My son works 60 hours a week to provide for you and those children. He comes home exhausted and still helps with homework, still tries to connect with you. If you can't see that, then you don't deserve him." I loaded Eva into her car seat, my hands shaking with anger and humiliation. "Tell Marcus he can call me when he's ready to act like an adult." But that evening, Marcus didn't call. Instead, I received a text from my bank. "Transaction declined. Insufficient funds." I logged into our joint account to find that Marcus had withdrawn half our savings and moved it to an account I couldn't access. Panic set in as I realized this wasn't just a marital spat anymore. This was war. When I called Marcus, he answered on the first ring. "You froze our accounts?" I demanded. "I secured my family's financial future. There's enough in the joint account for household expenses. Everything else is protected." "Protected from what?" "From your own wife." from someone who's clearly not thinking about our family's best interests. Marcus, this is insane. Come home. Bring the kids home. We can work this out. Can we, Lydia? Because from where I'm standing, you've made your choice. You chose Joel over us. I didn't choose anyone. I just wanted you to notice me. Well, congratulations. You have my full attention now. The line went dead, leaving me alone in our house, with the crushing realization that my joke had spiraled completely out of control. Marcus returned home on Tuesday evening, but not alone. He brought his lawyer, David Chen, and a folder thick with documents that made my stomach drop. The kids stayed at Helen's, a detail that should have warned me how serious this had become. Lydia, this is David. He'll be representing me in our divorce proceedings. The word divorce hit me like a physical blow. Marcus, you're being dramatic. We had a fight. Couples fight. David opened his folder and spread papers across our dining room table. Mrs. Vane, these aren't the materials of a simple marital dispute. Your husband has documented evidence of adultery, financial irresponsibility, and emotional abandonment of your children. I stared at the papers, printouts of text messages, bank statements, even photos of Joel and me at various cafes. You had me followed? I had our marriage protected, Marcus said calmly. When your behavior became erratic, I needed to understand what was happening. My behavior? I had coffee with a friend. David slid a stack of text messages across the table. These messages span 3 weeks, Mrs. Vane. They detail intimate conversations, expressions of love, and plans for a physical relationship. This isn't friendship. My face burned as I recognized my own words printed in black and white. Messages I'd sent in moments of frustration and loneliness now looked calculating and cruel. You had no right to read my private conversations. I had every right to protect my children from instability, Marcus replied. Ava came home from school crying last week because her teacher asked if Mommy and Daddy were getting divorced. Apparently, it's common knowledge among the school parents. That's not my fault. Your mother has been spreading gossip. My mother has been fielding questions about why my wife is publicly dating my best friend. She's been protecting our family's reputation while you've been destroying it. David cleared his throat. Mrs. Vane, your husband is prepared to file for divorce on grounds of adultery. He's seeking primary custody of the children and division of assets according to the prenuptial agreement you signed. Prenup? My mind raced. We didn't sign a prenup. Marcus's expression remained neutral. We signed a post-nuptial agreement 3 years ago when I inherited my grandfather's estate. You insisted on it, actually, to protect both our interests. The memory came flooding back. Papers I'd signed without reading carefully, trusting Marcus to handle the legal details. I'd been more concerned with the vacation we were planning than the fine print of financial agreements. I want to see my children. They'll stay with my mother until this is resolved. They're confused and upset, Lydia. Ava asked me why you don't love Daddy anymore. Tears finally came, hot and desperate. I do love you, Marcus. This whole thing was just... It was supposed to make you notice me again. By having an affair? It wasn't an affair. We never slept together. David consulted his notes. According to these messages, you and Mr. Ramsey discussed meeting at the Riverside Hotel last Friday. Hotel records show a room was booked under his name. My world tilted. Joel had booked a hotel room? We'd talked about taking things further, but I thought it was just fantasy, just the thrill of feeling wanted. I didn't go to any hotel. Because your husband confronted you first, David continued, but the intent was clearly established. Marcus stood up, his composure finally cracking. Lydia, I loved you. I worked myself to exhaustion to give you and the kids everything you wanted. When you said you felt ignored, I tried to be more present. When you complained about our social life, I arranged date nights. Nothing was ever enough. You were always working. I was building our future. The house, the kids' college funds, your car, your credit cards, all of it required sacrifice. I thought you understood that. I needed you, not your money. You needed validation from other men. There's a difference. The cruelty of his words, combined with their accuracy, left me speechless. David packed up his papers while Marcus headed toward the door. Where are you going? To my real family. The people who actually want me around. Marcus, please, we can fix this. He paused at the doorway. Lydia, you broke something that can't be repaired. You humiliated me, confused our children, and destroyed my oldest friendship. Joel won't even return my calls. I'm sorry. Sorry doesn't rebuild trust. Sorry doesn't erase the fact that you chose to hurt me rather than talk to me. After they left, I sat alone among the scattered remnants of my marriage. My phone rang. It was Mina, Joel's wife. You home-wrecking bitch, she said without preamble. I found the hotel receipt. I found everything. Mina, I can explain. Explain what? How you seduced my husband? How you destroyed 2 families for your entertainment? It wasn't like that. Joel told me everything, Lydia. How you pursued him, how you made him feel sorry for you, how you planned that hotel meeting. He's devastated that he lost Marcus over your games. The line went dead, leaving me with the devastating realization that I'd become the villain in everyone's story, including my own. The courthouse felt like a cathedral of judgment as I sat across from Marcus and his legal team. 6 weeks had passed since that terrible night, and I'd barely seen Eva and Max except for supervised visits that left me feeling like a stranger to my own children. My lawyer, Patricia Wells, was competent but clearly outmatched by David Chen's preparation. The evidence Marcus had compiled was overwhelming, not just the text messages and financial records, but witness statements from friends, family, and even school staff who'd observed the deterioration of our family. Your Honor, David began, Mr. Vane seeks dissolution of marriage based on adultery and irreconcilable differences. The evidence shows a pattern of deceptive behavior that has damaged not only the marital relationship, but the emotional well-being of 2 minor children. Judge Morrison, a stern woman in her 50s, reviewed the documents with careful attention. Mrs. Vane, how do you respond to these allegations? I stood on shaking legs. Your Honor, I made mistakes, but I never intended to hurt anyone. My marriage was struggling, and I sought emotional support from a friend. Nothing physical happened. David immediately objected. Your Honor, the evidence shows clear intent to consummate an extramarital relationship. Hotel reservations, explicit text messages, and witness testimony from Mr. Ramsey himself confirm this was far beyond emotional support. My heart sank. Joel had testified against me, probably to save his own marriage. Furthermore, David continued, Mrs. Vane has shown no remorse for the impact on her children. Eva Vane, age 6, has been seeing a counselor due to anxiety and behavioral changes. Max Vane, age 4, has regressed in his development and refuses to sleep alone. That's not because of me, I protested. They're upset because Marcus took them away from their mother. Judge Morrison's expression grew stern. Mrs. Vane, please address the court through your attorney. Patricia stood reluctantly. Your Honor, my client acknowledges that mistakes were made, but she's committed to rebuilding her family relationships. The children need both parents. The children need stability, David countered. Mr. Vane has maintained consistent employment, housing, and emotional support throughout this crisis. Mrs. Vane lost her job due to workplace disruptions related to this affair, has been evicted from the family home due to non-payment of rent, and continues to blame others for her choices. I'd lost my job because Janet and her gossip network had made work unbearable. I'd been evicted because Marcus controlled our finances and I couldn't afford the rent alone. But sitting in that courtroom, my explanations sounded like excuses. Your Honor, I said, standing again despite Patricia's restraining hand, I love my children. Everything I did was because I felt invisible in my own marriage. I never meant for things to go this far. Yet you continued the relationship even after your husband expressed concerns? Judge Morrison asked. Yes, but only because… Mrs. Vane, intent matters in family court. The evidence suggests you deliberately pursued a relationship with your husband's best friend, lied about your activities, and showed no consideration for your children's emotional welfare during this period. Marcus sat quietly throughout the proceedings, his face a mask of controlled pain. When called to testify, he spoke with dignity about his love for Eva and Max, his commitment to their stability, and his desire to co-parent respectfully despite our differences. Mr. Vane, Judge Morrison asked, are you seeking to completely eliminate Mrs. Vane's parental rights? No, Your Honor. Despite everything, she's their mother. But I believe supervised visitation is necessary until she demonstrates stability and genuine remorse. Even in his anger, Marcus was protecting me from complete devastation. The realization of what I'd lost, not just a husband, but a genuinely good man, hit me with crushing force. During recess, my mother Sandra approached me in the hallway. She'd been notably absent from the courtroom proceedings. Lydia, honey, I think you should consider accepting Marcus's settlement offer. Mom, you're supposed to be on my side. I am on your side, which is why I'm telling you to stop fighting this. Marcus is being generous. He could have destroyed you completely. He is destroying me. No, sweetheart, you destroyed yourself, and now you need to focus on rebuilding, not on being right. Even my own mother had abandoned me. When court resumed, Judge Morrison delivered her preliminary ruling. Based on the evidence presented, I'm granting Mr. Vane temporary primary custody pending Mrs. Vane's completion of counseling and demonstration of stable employment and housing. Visitation will remain supervised until further review. As we filed out of the courtroom, I caught Marcus's arm. Marcus, please, can we talk privately? He looked at me with something that might have been pity. Lydia, there's nothing left to say. I hope you get the help you need, for Eva and Max's sake. I never meant for it to go this far. It was supposed to be a joke, a way to get your attention. Well, you have my attention now, and this is what it looks like. He walked away with David, leaving me standing in the courthouse hallway with the wreckage of my life scattered around me like debris from a storm I'd created myself. 3 months later, I sat in the same courtroom for the final hearing. The intervening weeks had been a blur of mandatory counseling sessions, job interviews, and awkward supervised visits with Eva and Max in a sterile room with a social worker taking notes. I'd found a small apartment across town and a part-time job at a medical office. Nothing like the life I'd known, but it was stable. My therapist, Dr. Sarah Chen, had helped me understand the destructive patterns that led to my affair, but understanding didn't erase the consequences. Marcus looked different, thinner, but somehow stronger, like he'd shed more than just weight during our separation. Eva and Max sat with Helen in the gallery, both children clinging to their father when he approached them before court began. Your Honor, David Chen addressed the court, Mr. Vane has fulfilled all requirements for permanent custody. The children are thriving in their current environment, attending counseling, and maintaining their school and social connections. Judge Morrison reviewed the updated reports. Mrs. Vane, I see you've completed the required counseling and secured employment. How do you feel about the custody arrangement? I stood, my prepared speech forgotten. Your Honor, I've learned a lot about myself these past months. I understand now that my actions weren't just mistakes. They were selfish choices that hurt everyone I claimed to love. The courtroom was silent except for the soft scratching of the court reporter's fingers on her machine. I want what's best for Eva and Max, even if that means accepting that I'm not the best parent for them right now. Marcus has given them stability when I created chaos. He's shown them love when I was focused on my own needs. Patricia looked surprised by my deviation from our planned defense, but I continued. I'm asking for continued visitation, but I'm not fighting the custody decision. My children deserve better than what I gave them, and Marcus has proven he can provide that. Judge Morrison nodded slowly. Mrs. Vane, that shows considerable growth and maturity. Mr. Vane, what are your thoughts on visitation? Marcus stood, glancing back at our children. Your Honor, I believe supervised visitation should continue for now, with the possibility of unsupervised visits once Mrs. Vane demonstrates sustained stability. Eva and Max need their mother, but they need to feel safe with her too. Very well. I'm granting Mr. Vane permanent primary custody with Mrs. Vane receiving supervised visitation every other weekend and 1 evening per week. This arrangement will be reviewed in 6 months. The gavel fell with a finality that echoed through my chest. As people filed out of the courtroom, I approached Marcus one last time. Thank you for not completely shutting me out of their lives. They're our children, Lydia. Despite everything, I won't use them as weapons. I know you won't. You're a better person than I am. Marcus's expression softened slightly. You're not a bad person, Lydia. You made bad choices. There's a difference. Is there? Sometimes I'm not sure. There is, and maybe someday Eva and Max will understand that too. I watched him walk away with our children, his children now, really. Eva looked back once and waved tentatively. I waved back, tears blurring my vision. Outside the courthouse, my sister Rachel was waiting by her car. She'd been the only family member to attend the final hearing. How are you holding up? She asked. I keep thinking about that first night, when I decided to text Joel back. Such a small decision, but it changed everything. You can't live in the past, Lydia. You have to focus on rebuilding. What if I can't? What if I've broken something in myself that can't be fixed? Rachel hugged me tightly. Then you keep trying anyway, for Eva and Max, if not for yourself. As we drove away from the courthouse, I saw Marcus loading the kids into his car. They were laughing at something he'd said, and for a moment, they looked like a complete family without me. My joke had cost me everything: my marriage, my children, my home, my reputation. I'd wanted to shake things up, to feel alive again, to matter to someone. Instead, I'd learned the devastating difference between being wanted and being valued, between getting attention and earning respect. The envelope with the divorce papers had arrived 6 months ago, but I was only now beginning to understand what it really meant. It wasn't just the end of my marriage. It was the consequence of treating love like a game and people like pawns. I'd spent so long feeling invisible that I'd made myself disappear entirely from the life I'd claimed to want to save. Now, sitting in Rachel's passenger seat watching my former family drive away, I realized that some jokes aren't funny to anyone, especially the person who tells them. The road ahead looked long and uncertain, but for the first time in months, I wasn't planning my next move to get someone's attention. I was just trying to figure out how to live with the choices I'd made and the woman I'd discovered myself to be. Maybe that was where real change had to begin, not with grand gestures or desperate schemes, but with the quiet, difficult work of becoming someone my children could be proud of again. Someone I could be proud of, too. It would take time, patience, and a kind of honesty I'd never practiced before. But as Rachel drove me home to my small apartment and my uncertain future, I realized I finally had what I'd claimed to want all along: Marcus's full attention and the complete understanding of exactly what I'd lost. The joke was over. The real work was just beginning. Don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and turn on the bell so you don't miss the next story. Write in the comments from which city you are watching.